Hey gang, thanks for checking out one of my new visual novel videos. This was a topic that a few people suggested I cover, and it's kind of a staple, so I figured it makes sense to do it next. Before I get into it, I want to thank you for the kind reception my last video got. I didn't expect so many warm comments from y'all, and it kind of made me emotional, but I won't get into that now. In this video, I'll be going over some of the visual novels that I feel are the most beginner-friendly. The Steam sale is still going on, that was a lot of alliteration, so I'm hoping that you may pick a few of these up. If you're not someone who has played very many visual novels, these are all great places to start. And actually, a lot of these options will be based on things like accessibility, such as price, platforms they're available on. Most of these will be on Steam, just because I know a lot of people use Steam, and also just general enjoyment factor. Now, not all of them are going to be my all-time favorite games necessarily. Some of my personal favorites aren't the most beginner-friendly, whatever that means. And, well, that's not to say that you wouldn't enjoy them if you've never touched a visual novel, but I definitely have a few friends who would have been scared away from the genre if any of those were their first VN experiences. I'm looking at you, Euphoria. But enough about that. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start off with the shortest and simplest of visual novels. Kinetic visual novels don't include any choices, and they have a linear storyline, so they're really more of a reading experience than anything else. Some people don't enjoy them, but I find they're easy to get into if the story is engaging. Really though, I guess that could be said for any of these categories, since visual novels are kind of primarily story-based. But anyways. The first game up is Planetarian: The Reverie of a Little Planet. Plenty of people suggest this game to newcomers because of its quick playtime and enjoyable story, and I'm not gonna be any different from them here. The game takes place in a borderline post-apocalyptic world as you play as a junker who comes across an abandoned planetarium. There he meets a robot just trying to do her job and bring joy to the world through it. The story and characters aren't the most complex, but it's easy to feel some attachment to them and also investment in their well-being. It's a somewhat melancholic visual novel, but it's from Key, so what did you expect? All in all, Planetarian is a short and sweet title to pick up. Our second title is Sayane Uta, an 18+ classic with my favorite soundtrack ever. Okay, it's not quite a kinetic visual novel since there are a few choices, but they're very sparse and I feel like it suits this category more than any of the others here. It's another case of plenty of suggestion lists including this game as a must-play, but it's for good reason, okay? It's a staple in the horror genre, but more specifically romantic horror and tragedy. The subject matter includes some really uncomfortable topics, so it's definitely not for the faint of heart, but that's fine. I would get into my history with the game here, but I'm planning a totally separate video for that, so I will just briefly mention it. Sayane Uta was my first visual novel ever, and as such, it'll always have a special place in my heart. My username is partially based on the game, and I was finally able to cosplay as Saya at Otakon 2018. There aren't too many choices, nor endings for that matter, and it's not an especially long game, but it's a huge emotional investment as you see two characters delve further into darkness. On to the next category. Yes. Gameplay visual novels. The category that includes many titles I don't personally see as visual novels, but others do. Don't get me wrong, okay, they definitely have visual novel elements to them, but I find that there's a little too much actual gameplay. I'll still include them though, since they're the easiest for newcomers to get into, since it's not just exclusively reading, and I know how much people hate that. Danganronpa is the first one I will be suggesting. A lot of people are likely familiar with the series, so I'm not going to get too far into explaining it, but the basic synopsis is that in each of the main games you play as a student with an extraordinary talent, but oh no, suddenly they and their classmates are locked in a school or trapped on an island together and people are getting murdered? It's up to our lovely protagonists to figure out who each murderer is, otherwise they'll die themselves. The cast of characters are all really over the top and wacky, but that's part of the appeal. There are some people who claim Danganronpa is just a Zero Escape ripoff, but they each have their own charms to them, and I find Danganronpa easier for a general audience to get into. The main series includes the first game, Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair, and Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. They're really enjoyable games and definitely huge crowd pleasers. I'm a bit biased though because I read the games on Something Awful when I was a freshman in high school, and now here I am, an adult and still loving the series? Like, what? I did terrible cosplays of Junko and Monokuma as a young teen, and now I'm doing somewhat vaguely, mostly better cosplays of Sonia, Maki, and Mukuro as an adult. Man, what a world we live in. Also, I'm terrible and I love Sonia and Kazuichi. I'm sorry, don't judge me on a trash taste. Okay. The other game I have in this category is Monster Prom. Is this a visual novel? Maybe not. But I went on Instagram and put up a poll asking whether or not people would consider it one, and the yeses won, so we're including it, y'all. Monster Prom is a dating sim where you're just looking for a cute monster to take to prom. It's that simple. You build different stats to try to impress your monster crush, or hey, you can just go to prom alone too. That's fine. It's cute, sweet, simple, and has a ton of free play value since there are a lot of unique situations. There's also a multiplayer mode. I've played the game a lot with friends before, and it's always a really fun experience. I would highly recommend it. We are on to the general category. These games could fit into other categories potentially, but I think they fit better here since they probably have the most widespread appeal out of the other ones. I don't know, it's my video, we're doing it this way. Okay, first general recommendation I have is Lake of Voices. This is a really unique little indie game. I don't want to go too into the story since that's part of the fun, so I'll say this much. You're trying to cross an ominous and terrifying lake, and on the way you need to decide which sacrifices you will or will not make. It's also fully voiced, which is a huge bonus, thank you Lord. There were way more endings than I expected, and I maybe rushed through some of the later ones a bit too quickly in one night, and that's kind of related to the main flaw of the game, I would say. The endings were the only thing that really seemed flawed to me, and it's because they were kind of sudden, and I didn't always believe the way characters felt about one another. That's kind of the type of thing that I can often overlook in indie titles. It didn't fail by any means, and I still enjoyed my experience as a whole, so it's not a huge detriment. It's a game you can finish within a few hours, and the choices you make are easy to get invested in, so I wholeheartedly feel like newbies can enjoy their time playing it. The other general suggestion I have is The Letter. I fully admit to not finishing this game at the time of recording this video. Sorry about that. But I think that I can trust the game continues to be good past the point I'm at. I've been playing through it really slowly, and it's a really impressive game. There are multiple protagonists, plenty of choices, character relationships, full voice acting, gorgeous visuals, and a just generally intriguing storyline. I am a sucker for spooky house narratives. I'm sorry, it's great, I love that. It just feels like exactly the type of game that's for people who are less and more familiar with visual novels. Plenty of choices, that's a plus. Nice story, that's a plus. Art, all that stuff that I just talked about like literally less than a minute ago. I cannot recommend it enough. Alrighty, we're on the final category, otome games. They are dating sims with a female audience in mind, and they are my area of expertise. So we'll do a speed round here, or at least I will try to do a speed round, because if I could talk forever about each one, I would. It was tough for me to select a few, and these aren't necessarily my all-time favorites. In fact, I have some major issues with a few of them, but I feel like they're super beginner-friendly, super accessible, and also really popular in the community, so that definitely is stuff that I took into consideration. Cinderella Phenomenon is the first game here. Well, first of all, this game is free, so I don't really know what else can convince you to play. You play as a cold princess who gets a curse placed on her, and in order to break that curse, she needs to learn how to be kind to people. I love the protagonist in this game, and most other people do too. I just wasn't really crazy about any of the love interest, which is kind of a bummer because it's a really cool game. They're interesting enough and okay, just none of them really are my type, and that's kind of a big factor for dating sims for me. It's still a great game, and it's free on Steam, so hey, hit that up, check it out. It's really fun and easy to get into. Totally would suggest y'all play it if you like otome games. Our second otome game is Amnesia Memories. Amnesia is a total otome game classic. You are a girl who wakes up with amnesia, a little fairy boy who only you can see acts as your one companion who understands you while you try to figure out who the heck you were. The protagonist in this game is entirely silent, and instead most of her inner thoughts are narrated by Orion, the spirit boy that I mentioned earlier. I don't personally enjoy that, but you get used to it pretty quickly, and Orion is a major sweetheart. It's another otome game like Cinderella Phenomenon, where the main cast of guys don't really speak to me on a personal level, but I will fight anyone who says that Kent doesn't have the best route in the game, and one of the best otome routes of all time, probably. I don't even necessarily love him as a character. He's not exactly my type, but the chemistry and relationship between him and the protagonist, some of the most believable stuff I've read from any dating sim. Some of the other characters are kind of problematic, meaning one of them is sort of infamous in the community. That's besides the point. Even though I don't love the cast, I remember I couldn't put this game down the first time I ever played it. It has a really engaging story with different routes that all tie together in a satisfying way. Let me be upfront. Oh god, I feel like I give so many disclaimers for titles I talk about. I promise they're still good games. I just have really strong opinions and I need to chill out sometimes. I'm sorry. Nightshade is not my favorite game, and I find it a little bit overrated, but it's still fun, so like really that's what matters. It's not terrible either, and on a first playthrough, it really is a solid otome game. I don't want to give too much away about the plot, because it kind of changes based on each route, but you're a female ninja on the run. I'll leave it at that. The art's nice, writing's fine, story is decent, it's a good game, and people on the otome subreddit really love it. And really, a first-timer would totally enjoy it too. I likely would have loved it way more had I not been as familiar with the genre when I first played it. Fashioning Little Miss Lonesome is the last game that I'm going to be talking about, and it's another 18+ title. You're a socially awkward girl who becomes the muse of two men, one's a total sadist and the other a total masochist. Nothing deep or complex about this game, but sometimes that's kind of just what you need. It's also one of the very few 18+ otome games out there, so we kind of gotta take what we get. Lighthearted, enjoyable, not very long or tedious to get through. I really enjoyed my time with it, and I also hope that we get many more 18+ otome games in the future. Please guys, we're dying here. So whether you're a seasoned visual novel fan or someone just hoping to dip their toes into the genre, did I really write that? I guess I did. Those are the games I feel are the most welcoming to everyone. I hope you enjoy any of the ones you may pick up, and let me know in the comments what your thoughts on them are. Have you played them already? Did you just start them out? I'd love to discuss them with you. I will not shut up if you start talking to me about them, so please do. Thank you so much for checking out my latest video, y'all, and I cannot wait to share the next one.